What's going on, everybody? This is your boy James here, back for a kind of a new series that I'm going to be trying to do for, from now on. After watching some videos of like different people and making like predictions as far as like sports predictions go. So I watched this one YouTuber on YouTube, and he's been discussing about the recent 2022 NFL schedule that came out just recently. And I figured, well, after watching his predictions, I've been wanting to do this for quite a long time, but a lot of it was because of my college work. That's kind of was preventing me from being able to have time and do all this. So what I plan on doing for today, I'm going to be going over all of the NFL schedules for this year for each of the 32 teams that there are in the league. So for tonight, I'm going to be starting off with the AFC East teams, which will include the Buffalo Bills, the New England Patriots, the Miami Dolphins, and the New York Jets, just for today. But they're each of them are going to be in their own separate videos. So for this particular one that I'm making right now is going to be on the Buffalo Bills, because that's the one that I have pulled up right now. Buffalo is going to be, I believe, they're going to be one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFL this year. With all the offseason stuff that they've been doing, they added some key pieces that they really needed on their defense for quite a while. Being able to add some offensive linemen, being able to start a running game going on. I think this is one of the best teams that you're going to see in the NFL this year. And that's going to be the Buffalo Bills. It's going to be led by quarterback Josh Allen. So let's take a look at their schedule. I'll start sharing my screen, and we will talk about each game. All right. So each team, as you already know about the NFL, each team gets a bye sporadically throughout the season. So the Bills bye week is going to be on week 7 for this year. So that's kind of, not, it's kind of an early bye, kind of an early bye week for some teams. I'm not a big fan of early bye weeks. I think when it's later on in the season, it kind of benefits certain teams, but I'm not a big fan of I'm not really a big fan of how early these bye weeks are for some of these teams. And I think the bye week for week 7 may be a little too soon for that, for a team like this who's been on a roll. But, I mean, the NFL does their own schedules for a reason. They know what they're doing. So that's what we got to try to go forth with, right? All right, so the first game is going to be in week 1, and this is the kickoff game. So the Buffalo Bills at the Los Angeles Rams. Excuse me, I can't speak tonight. The Los Angeles Rams are coming off of as many of you know, they're coming off of a Super Bowl win. They had a lot of key contributors to this Super Bowl team last year, and most of them, besides Von Miller, who actually is going to be over in Buffalo this year playing on their defense. Most of their key pieces are back, and they did some nice things in the draft too that they needed to, shape up the team a little bit to make it a little bit better. But the Rams are still, again, just like the Bills, they're one of the best teams in the NFL. No questions about that. I do believe this is actually the best kickoff game that I've seen in the NFL in quite some time. So I'm really, really excited to see this game kick off in week 1 on September 8th. But this is a really hard game to predict because I feel like both defenses are very solid in their own right, but it's not. I don't think it's going to really be much about the defense. I think this is going to be like an offensive explosion for both of these teams because of how strong they both are. I mean, if you look at the Buffalo Bills, you've got Josh Allen, you've got Stephon Diggs, who's going to have a great year this year. I think Gabriel Davis. Those are like some of the key weapons that Josh Allen really likes to throw to. And then you've got the Rams, who have now they just added in Allen Robinson from the Bears. They still have Cooper Kupp, who was just on a tear last year. They do have Cam Akers back this year as long as he stays healthy. And they just have a great roster overall on the offensive side, and that Matthew Stafford is what made that Rams team a much better team last year over Jared Goff. So this is a tough one to really pick, but I do think the Rams are going to take it in week 1. because I just feel like the Rams are coming off of a Super Bowl win, which is really nice. But I also do think like their offense is just I think I trust Matthew Stafford in that offense just a little bit more right now than the Bills. I think the Bills will do the job fine, but I don't know if that defense, and it's an improved defense for sure for the Buffalo Bills. But I feel like this Rams team can really do a lot. I think Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp are just one of the best duos right now in the NFL. And it's just, I think a lot of defenses are going to have to really plan for them this year if they even plan on, if they really want to beat the Rams. So I think just for this week one matchup, and it's kind of hard to tell because week one, there's always a lot of mistakes. You never really play a great football game in week one. And as we saw that the last couple of years, especially last year when you saw the Bucks and the Cowboys on kickoff night. But I do think this Rams team is going to be I think this Rams team is just coached a little bit better. I think they're a little bit stronger on offense, and their defense is pretty similar, I believe, to the Bills. But I do think Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, even Cam Akers could have a really good game in this too, because I'm not sure of that. The biggest weakness for the Bills defense last year was their run defense, and that kind of showed when they played the Bucks last year and some of those teams that really been and even when they played the Colts, they struggled to really stop the run. So I'm not sure how they're really going to do on the run. Cam Akers could have a good game in this too, as well, along with Cooper Kupp and Stafford. So I'm going to go with the Rams for week one. And then week two, this is always like one of those weird games. The Tennessee Titans are going to Buffalo this year, and it's on a Monday night doubleheader. So the Titans they kind of questioned me a little bit this year as far as like how good they're going to be this year. I mean, I still think the Titans are solid because they have Derrick Henry back, and we could assume that he will end up staying healthy this year with Derrick Henry. But they had some questions this year as far as like trading up like their best receiver AJ Brown to the Eagles, and then they drafted a new receiver, Traylon Burks. And then you get Malik Willis as our quarterback. So it's going to be an interesting game. And the Bills lost the last two seasons to the Titans. The year of COVID, which was in 2020, was like a blowout game for the Titans to win. And that's when the Titans were at their best, and the Bills defense was kind of shaky. And then last year, the Bills had an opportunity to win, but Josh Allen was not able to convert on fourth and goal in order to win that game. But I do think because this game is in Buffalo, and Buffalo is a really, really rowdy place to play if you're a Buffalo fan, I do think the Bills this year can get their revenge this year, and they can beat the Titans on Monday night. And this is a doubleheader, I believe. I think the other game with this too is the Vikings and the Eagles. I could be wrong, but I do think this is a doubleheader. But I do think the Bills are going to beat the Titans this year because I think the Bills roster is better. I think their defense is better. I think Josh Allen is realistically a better quarterback, and I think they're going to improve on the run game. And I just don't see the Titans secondary being able to stop Josh Allen. They weren't really just able to stop them last year, despite beating the Bills barely. But I think this Bills team should beat the Titans this year. Then week three, you go to Miami. Now Miami's kind of a weird team as well. They're kind of similar to the Titans a little bit. But more so the Dolphins don't really focus a lot of the run game, but they like to heavily rely on Tua and his passing game, which we're going to really see how he does in his third year, adding in Tyreek Hill. So, and I don't know how that run game is going to be for Miami, but here's the interesting thing. Miami in week three, so we're looking at like mid to late September. Miami, Florida is really hot around that time. It's still pretty hot. It's not really cooler down there yet. It's pretty hot down there still around that time. So and I know the Bills have really smoked out the Dolphins the last few seasons with Josh Allen being at his best. So, but I don't know. This Dolphins team could split with the Bills this year. I could see Tua finally being able to avenge all of his losses to the Bills. I do think Um, this is a possibility that the Dolphins could, but I don't know. This Bills team is just very, very good right now with all their pieces that they've got, and they're all just more trustworthy than what you've got with the Miami Dolphins. So it's really a tough one to pick, and it's also a division game. So you got to really look at it this way as well. But I still think the Bills are just still a stronger team than the Dolphins by a mile. I think this Dolphins team can win some games this year. They could put themselves in a close position in the playoffs, but I think this Bills team is just too tough for the Miami Dolphins to really beat. So I do think the Bills can win in week 3. And then you got to go to Baltimore to play the Ravens. Now, the Ravens are another team like the Titans who love to focus on their running game. And the Ravens had just recently traded up their best receiver at the time, Marquise Brown, to the Cardinals. So I'm not sure how the Ravens are really going to be this year. I know they've ramped up on their defense. They've got a pretty solid defense this year. They got a really, really good safety in the first round of the draft in Kyle Hamilton, who is going to be a safety for them. But the weird thing about this Ravens defense is sometimes they're either on or off. And when they're off, they're real off, and you're able to pass around the ball on them. But if they're strong, it's going to be very tough because then that would have to force the Bills to run the ball, which we all know the Bills are not crazy for running the ball. They don't love it, and they rather not use it, but they rather use Josh Allen as in his arm to make the plays in these kind of games. So I do think the Bills I think the Bills are an overall better roster on paper, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens did find a way to win this game in because it is in Baltimore. It's tough to play in something like Baltimore. So, but I think the Bills can find a way to beat them. Then they go back home to Buffalo, and then they play the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now the Pittsburgh Steelers this year are an interesting team. We're going to see how they do without Big Ben this year. At this point in time, it's probably going to still be either Mitchell Trubisky starting or it's going to be Kenny Pickett. But I still think the Bills are a better roster. I think they have a better defense. No offense to Pittsburgh fans. I do think the Bills do have a better defense. I think they have a much stronger offense, and they obviously are going to win at the quarterback position. So I do think the Bills are going to win in Orchard Park. They're going to avenge their loss from last year to the Steelers, and they're going to win. But it's not going to be an easy game. I think it's going to be a low scoring game, though. I think it's going to be low scoring because that Pittsburgh defense is still pretty solid, and DJ Watt did have a really good game last year against Josh Allen. So I can see them giving them problems, but I don't know if that offense with Mitchell Trubisky or Kenny Pickett at that point is going to be able to keep up with the Bills. So I'm going to go with the Bills for this one. Then week 6, Buffalo Bills are going back to Kansas City in the rematch of the AFC divisional game, which was one of the greatest playoff games of all time to watch. And one of the games that the Bills really should have won. But this is, again, they did beat them last year in the regular season, but they didn't beat them where they really needed to. And Arrowhead is a really hard place to play. And at this right now, we're looking at week 6, so it's going to be a little early to really tell how good the Chiefs are without Tyreek Hill, and that's going to be really what I think the Chiefs are really going to struggle this year in terms of without Tyreek Hill being there for Patrick Mahomes. They do have Juju now, and they do have some weapons that they can still throw to. Like they still have Travis Kelce that he can throw to. There was a couple other offensive pieces that they have. They have Ronald Jones now in the running game that's going to probably split some time with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But I don't know. This Bills team on paper, again, it's very hard to tell because I think this Bills team on paper is better than the Chiefs, in my own opinion. I'm not going to start the debate on whether who's the better quarterback in this, either Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. They're both the two best quarterbacks in their 20s at this time, and they're both in their prime still. But I really do want to see the Bills avenge their loss from last year But I don't think it's going to be a blowout game like it was last year, pretty much in the regular season. I think it's going to be almost similar to what we saw in the AFC divisional game. I really do see that. But I do think the Bills on paper right now, and it could change. I could see the Chiefs. The Chiefs can easily win this game, but right now I like to see this Buffalo team really be able to avenge their loss to Patrick Mahomes and company and get that W. So then you're going into the bye week in week 7. So you're looking at a 5-1 record for the Bills right now, which is pretty good. This is a pretty solid record right now. Then they come off the bye week and they play the Green Bay Packers. Now, Green Bay take it without Devontae Adams. We're not sure what Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to do without Devontae Adams. I still think the Packers are going to be a good team, but the difference is it's not in Lambeau Field. It's in Orchard Park. So do I pick the Bills or do I pick the Packers? I like to pick the Bills here because I think they have the home field advantage. Again, Buffalo is a really hard place to play. And I think Josh Allen, I think this Green Bay defense is improved, but we don't really know what they're going to be like yet. So I'm thinking this Buffalo team, I think Josh Allen can find some ways to really make some big plays in this game. And I do think they have the best opportunity. They're probably one of the more of the teams of for Green Bay that they may lose to. Now, do I think the Bills can lose to the Green Bay Packers? Do I think Green Bay can beat them? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I never would I never doubt Aaron Rodgers one bit. But I like the Bills' chances here because they're playing at home. They're not playing in Lambeau Field. If it was in Lambeau Field, I would go with the Green Bay Packers because that's Aaron Rodgers' that's his home. You just never go against Aaron Rodgers at home, even though there are times where he does lose at home. But I think the Bills have the home field advantage, and I do think I just think that Josh Allen is more able to pass around the Packers secondary. So I'm going to take the Bills. I'm going to take the Bills. Week 9, you've got the Jets. The Jets are an improved team this year in relation to the last 2 years. The last 2 years, they were not very good. They were very bad on offense. They had a terrible offensive line. Last year, the defense was historically bad, which was surprising because the defense of the Jets is something that really was something that was really known for them for quite a while, especially in their run defense. But they are playing in MetLife, but I do think the Bills are just still a better team. Again, I think the Jets are improved, but I don't know how good this Jets team is really going to be. They're kind of question marks because they're very similar to the Giants. You never really know what you're going to get from either one of these two teams. Now, would I be shocked if the Jets were able to split with the Bills this year? Not entirely, because it is a division rival. But, it's just very clear right now that the Bills are better on paper and they'll be better on the field. The only thing that's really going to stop the Bills is, are they going to be able to run with Josh Allen or their running backs like with Singletary, or are they going to really pass the whole time? So, this could be a sneaky game, and I liked it. I like this matchup because it really gets to tell like how good are the Jets. Are the Jets at this point in time, with all their new key pieces that they got in the draft, are they all going to be able to pay off and maybe be able to beat the Bills? We'll see. But right now, I think the Bills can win this game. And then week 10 is the Vikings, and the Vikings go to play in Orchard Park. It's a very interesting game. I really, really like the Vikings, but is the Vikings secondary going to improve? That's the question. Have they improved? I don't think so. But what's really going to be interesting to see how Justin Jefferson does against this secondary, and be able to, and with a kind of like an improved line for Kirk Cousins. I don't know. I just don't know. I think Von Miller is going to have a good game on defense for the Bills. but it's a tricky one because I really like the Vikings. I wanna go with the Vikings, but just right now, I mean, Josh Allen is just the better quarterback, obviously, and I love Kirk Cousins too, but Josh Allen is a better quarterback. They have they have the same. They have very similar receivers, but it will be nice though to see because it would be a Stephon Diggs revenge game after leaving Minnesota. So yeah, I think the Vikings. I mean, I'm sorry. I think the Bills should really beat the Vikings. But would I really be shocked if the Vikings did find a way to beat the Bills? No, probably not. But I think with Von Miller and this Bills defense, I think they should find a way to really beat the Vikings and get to Kirk Cousins. I think their biggest problem they're going to really have is are they going to be able to stop Dalvin Cook? Are they going to be able to find ways to cover Justin Jefferson? Those are just really some of the big things that kind of would get me worried if I was a Bills fan. But I think they should beat the Vikings. Then week 11, they play the Cleveland Browns at home. Now, Cleveland at this time, I don't know what Cleveland's going to be this year. Cleveland every year they always say they're going to be really good and then they just fall flat on their face. So I don't know what this Browns team is going to be. I don't know if Deshaun Watson is going to be playing at this point. He might be playing. That might make a difference for the Browns. But I don't know. Is it going to be enough though to beat the Bills? I think the Bills. I think with Orchard Park, the Bills should win. I'm not saying the Browns are a bad team. I think they're an improved team. Like the Jets, I think they're improved on both sides of the ball. And I think Deshaun Watson is an upgrade over Baker Mayfield. But I think this Bills defense is going to. I don't know how this offensive line for the Bills is good. The Browns is going to be able to hold up against the Bills. I really don't. So it's tough. I don't know. I think the Bills should win this game. I wouldn't be surprised if the Browns did find a way to win. I do think Deshaun Watson should be playing. He might be playing at this point, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. I don't know if that's really going to give him enough time to be able to be a great team in the AFC like the Bills. That's just my opinion. And then week 12, you got the Bills at Detroit. Bills should win. Detroit still has its issues. They still have its issues, but they should beat the Lions though in Detroit. I really do. I don't know how that's I just don't think that Detroit's secondary, their defense is any good. So I think the Bills should really have a good one on this one. And I think this is Thanksgiving Thursday too, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is Thanksgiving. It's at 12:30. So yeah, this should be a Thanksgiving game, but I think the Bills are gonna win this one. It would be nice to see an underdog try to be able to beat them in the lines, but right now I just don't see it. Then week 13, this is a good game. It's going to be Buffalo at New England Patriots. The first time they're going to be facing New England in this season is week 13. I think New England is a decent team. I still think they're pretty good. And because it's at home on a primetime game, I think the Patriots do find a way to beat the Bills at least once this year. I don't know if Mac Jones is going to be able to get away with only passing the ball 3 times this season against a team like the Patriots. But I really do think that but I do think the Patriots should be able to split at least with the Bills this year. So I think the Patriots do win first in this first matchup. And then I think the Bills are going to beat them in the last game of the season. And that will determine whether or not the Patriots are going to make the playoffs. So we'll see. And then the Jets, I think the Bills should be able to beat the Jets here. I think the Bills are a better team on paper. And especially up in Orchard Park, it's a tough place to play. Yeah, they should beat the Jets. And then the Miami Dolphins. up here at this point in time in the season, they should be able to beat the Dolphins. My opinion, I think they really should be able to beat them, especially in Week 15. It's going to be very similar, I think, to similar weather. It should be very similar weather: cold, freezing, possible snow. Yeah, they should beat the Miami Dolphins, and then but they might be able to split them in week this year and be able to lose to them in Week 3. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. Then week 16, we've got at the Chicago Bears, and it's on a Saturday. So this is Christmas Eve. It's going to be played on. Bills should win. I think Chicago has a lot of work to do. They didn't really do anything really in the offseason to really improve on that offensive line or any kind of skill positions to help out the defense and to help out Justin Fields. So I do think the Bills should be able to win this, even if it is in Chicago, and Chicago is a really tough place to play. Like the Bills, very similar, but Bills should be able to beat. Then this Week 17 matchup is interesting, and it's a great way to end Monday Night Football of the year. The Buffalo Bills at the Cincinnati Bengals. Josh Allen versus Joe Burrow. This is a very intriguing matchup. This is a really, really good match. This might be one of the games of the year, in my opinion. It might be one of the best games of the year, in my opinion. It's a great matchup. But who wins, though? Do I think Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase? Or do I think the Bills with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs? It's a tough one. But also, I think one of the biggest advantages that the Bengals can and should be able to do, they should be able to run the ball. Joe Mixon is a very underrated running back. He's a very underrated running back, in my opinion. And if we don't see any improvement with this Buffalo run defense, this should give the Bengals the advantage to win this game against the Bills. It really should. So this is a tough one. I think, you know what? Let's see. Right now, I'm going to put the Bengals. I really do think the Bengals are one of the toughest matchups for the Bills because of all the advantages that they have. I mean, take a look at the roster for the Bengals. They have Joe Burrow. They have Joe Mixon. They have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, CJ Usama. They have a pretty solid offense. I think what's really going to struggle, and they didn't really address it that much, didn't do that much to improve it, was that offensive line, because that offensive line for Cincinnati was atrocious last year. It was atrocious. And for them to even make the Super Bowl last year it was unbelievable how they were able to make it with that offensive line. But I think because of Joe Burrow, and he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks for the future in this league, I mean, he really can do it all, Joe Burrow. He really can. And I think with his weapons like Jamar Chase and their ability to be able to run the ball, it should be able to be enough to be able to beat the Bills. And I think they're only one of the only few teams where I do think they can give the Bills trouble, especially in this AFC matchup. But that's not saying too much because the AFC is so tough this year as a whole, at least. But I do think, but really a 14-3 record, is that realistic for the Bills? I think so. I could see the Bills being 14-3. I could probably even see them being 13-4, or even at worst 12-5, but anywhere down below that. I think 12-5 would be the worst for the Bills, but this Bills team is just so loaded this year. They have so much to prove. They really have so much to prove on this team. So I really, really do believe that this is a realistic record for the Bills. So I think the 14-3 record is their ceiling for this. And we'll see. They could surprise everybody and not be able to do that. But I think this is a pretty solid record for the Bills, and they could even take the number one seed in the AFC with this record. So that's my record prediction for the Buffalo Bills. 14-3 record, and that will definitely be enough to win the AFC East. So let me know what you all think, and for the next video, we will go over the next topic of the New England Patriots. All right, here, let me see. Okay. All right, so I'll see you guys for the next video, and we will talk about the New England Patriots schedule.